Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here for this session. Appreciate that. Thank you for what you do for libraries, to support libraries. Appreciate that. So the topic this morning, restoring ILS accuracy, or actually maintaining ILS accuracy with RFID. Presenters this morning, I'm Gretchen Freeman. I'm the Senior Librarian with TechLogic and bring lots of years of experience working with library technology and specifically RFID. In the last 20 years, I've worked with literally hundreds of libraries on their RFID implementation, conversion and implementation. So I'm an RFID advocate and cheerleader. Imagine I have my pom-poms, big fan of RFID. I'm joined this morning by my colleague at TLC, Steve Mackey. Steve is a sales consultant with TLC and represents Library.Solutions, Carl.Solutions. Also joined with our spotlight presenter, Dr. Melissa Frost, who joins us from Rochester School District in Rochester, New York. Melissa oversees more than 40 libraries, technology, and hats off to her. She accomplished not only an ILS migration, but an RFID conversion at the same time across her district. So she is a road warrior. A little bit about TechLogic. TechLogic was founded in the 1990s and with the objective of streamlining library workflow. They're headquartered in Oakdale, Minnesota. Everything is supported out of Oakdale. They created the first library-specific automated materials handling system, AMH, back in the late 90s. So it was totally new, paradigm shifting, and they've gone on through these years to provide AMH systems for every possible building configuration. They have drive-up drops that actually work. They can move materials from one floor up to the next. And they do multiple configurations of AMH as well as simple AMH, which we are showing in the booth here. They also have solutions for self-checkout, for holds pickup, hold locker pickup, and shelf management, which is what we're talking about today. TechLogic joined the TLC family in 2005. And Steve's going to tell us a little bit about that partnership.
So TLC was founded in 1974, and we are proud to be one of the only remaining family-owned corporations in the library marketplace. If you look at a lot of the signs hanging up through here, aside from the Library of Congress, everybody else has been bought up. So we are proud to maintain our independence and our dedication toward library operations. They started, for those of you who might remember, delivering MARC records on microfiche and CD-ROM. So that was one of my first jobs in the library, was to do retrospective conversion. Today we've evolved into sophisticated library management solutions for publics and school libraries. And we became TechLogic's parent company in 2005. We saw the value of library automation and operational efficiency with radio frequency identification. And we appreciate a close partnership with that company today that we'll talk a little bit more about a little later.
Thank you, Steve. How many of you are already RFID libraries? Not everyone. So I'll take just a moment here and explain RFID, radio frequency identification. It means that there's a small tag that contains a computer chip and an antenna, and that small tag is placed in or on every item in the library. So what that does is allows those items to become identifiable through the air, not with a barcode scanner. The barcode is actually written to the computer chip, and it contains the barcode number as well as the security tag. But the tag itself goes inside the materials as it shows here in the illustration. Two big benefits for RFID and for an ID that doesn't have to be scanned, one of those benefits is that you can handle multiple items at the same time for self-check or for staff checkout, check-in, also an automated materials handling system, very efficient. And you'll find for circulation alone, the efficiency 5 to 10 times faster. Your public loves self-checkout for the same reason. The other thing that it works well for is self-scanning, because we're not doing barcode scanning, we're listening to each of those tags talking to us and telling us what its barcode number is. So for public libraries, it's often used because publics are doing heavy lifting with circulation. So it's an efficiency gain for public libraries. But RFID has caught on big time in the last decade as the cost of the tags fell from somewhere around 35 cents to now 10 to 11 cents a tag. So much less expensive now. And also I'm seeing all library types embrace RFID. It used to be really sort of public library oriented. I see academics and special and schools who are hopping on board with RFID and finding it useful for inventory and shelf management, particularly those two purposes, or circulation with a small staff. One of the most popular applications for RFID is called exception scanning. That means that I'm going to link staff track to my ILS via Wi-Fi in your building, and now I'm doing real-time queries against the ILS. So each time that wand passes an item, it says, what's the status? What's the current catalog status of the item in real time? And then it tells that status back to CertTrack. And as long as the item is in an available on-the-shelf status, it doesn't say anything. It collects the list. If it encounters an item that is in an exception status, lost, claim return, missing, still checked out, any of those exceptions, it will alert on the tablet and let you know you have found an exception. Typically, those items are pulled to be handled behind the scenes by cert staff. So there may need to be a fine waived. There may need to be an item that's misshelved. It may need to have be returned to the catalog. It may need to have a new spine label. So many different reasons. And so most of the libraries I work with pull those items and process them behind the scenes. So with regular exception scanning, you'll keep your catalog clean without an inventory. We know, publics know, inventory is expensive, it's extensive, it's labor intensive, and after 2 weeks it starts to wobble again. So put your effort into exception scanning and it keeps the catalog squeaky clean. It's also fast. When you say, well, how hard is it to do that? Let's just take a little short look at what it looks like to do exception scanning. No bending, no reaching. And on the left-hand side, the exceptions will collect on the left side. It alerts you with that red flash and lets you know I found an exception. If you'd like to do that yourself, come by our booth. We've got it set up. So you can see that it's a quick process. It's easy to train, easy for staff to use, any level of staff. You can scan anytime, anywhere, any section. There's nothing about keeping anything in order with it. So it's really a very handy tool for that reason. And notice that she's not pausing for each item either. So she's moving along at a good clip. There's two types of inventory that customers use the wand to do. One is the traditional inventory that we learned early in our library career, and that's where you gather barcodes. So you might be gathering them right now with a barcode scanner. With CertTrack, you'll pass the wand down the shelves, gather the barcodes, and then process them into your ILS. So the ILS is updating. Usually there's a date on the item record called date inventory. So it will update that date. And then it extrapolates by looking at what's on loan and what was on the shelf. It can extrapolate a missing list or missing report. And as it does that, it typically marks the item record missing in inventory. So now we have a new status on that item, missing in inventory. As that report is created, because it's updated the status, now I can take my search track back to the shelves, and as part of my regular scanning, anything that I might have overlooked during that first pass, it'll pick it up. Oh, it's really not missing. Here it is. I'll return it into the catalog. So it takes care of all that cleanup work as well. The second type of inventory is called dynamic inventory. That means I'm online to the ILS, and I'm actually doing my exception scan to find exceptions, but at the same time, I'm updating the item record with a last seen date. It was on the shelf, I passed it, if I didn't send that on, that would become my missing list, but because I did see it, it updates the item record with the last seen date. And of course, once you have your items with the last seen date, now you have a way to do a report of anything I didn't see, and that becomes your missing list. So you can take that list, put a missing in inventory status, and do the same thing we did with the gathering up barcode method. This method works with library.solution, carl.solution for that live inventory update.
Since TechLogic is part of the family of the Library Corporation, we have a lot of opportunity to do some deeper development that provides even better efficiency with the radio frequency identification and the search track wand. We can do live updates to that without the shuffling of the uploads and the reports to find missing that you would typically do in a traditional inventory scenario. We know that it gets inventoried, it's automatically updated. That also allows us to have visibility across all of the inventory. If you're working in a multi-library system or school district, you don't have to be on site to understand the progress of an inventory, and you're accomplishing tight circulation control in what's in your collection without all the shuffling of the reports and the lists that have to get managed. So if you are looking for a tight integration, you're more than welcome to come talk to us more in booth 947.
I'm Melissa Frost from the Rochester City School District. I've been a librarian about 29 years now, and we've been using RFID 3 years in our library system. So we have 28,000 plus students, staff, and faculty that we have going through our libraries throughout the school year. We do actually have 45 library sites. We have 2 new sites we're adding this year and 3 sites that do not use RFID, mainly because they are sites with either non-public schools that are part of our consortium, or they are like our Office of Professional Learning, who has a tendency to hand out the books to the teachers to keep. So we didn't see any value really in RFID in that particular collection. One of our largest sites is our arts department. We're not just RFIDing our books, we are RFIDing our musical instruments. And because our musical instruments are mostly metal, we actually are putting the RFID tag and like a luggage tag that's attached to the violin case, for example, or the horn case. And then the music teachers put them in the cabinets with that tag hanging down. And then our arts department support staff goes through and just waves the magic wand, as we call it, and takes the inventory of the instruments. But when you're talking instruments that would be several $100s, it is saving us quite a bit of money by locating those and not having to, replace something that expensive. We have 14 wands. We actually have 13 that are shared between the sites, and one of our libraries liked it enough, they convinced the principal to buy their own wand. So they are quite excited about that going forward. So for the main purpose, we are using it in our schools, and we were one of the first school districts in the country to actually implement RFID. We're mainly doing it for inventory. So our New York State libraries require us to inventory school libraries every year. And we are in our district a one-person show. We don't have clerical, we don't have additional staff. So it's a school librarian that's responsible to do this inventory in between all of her classes or his classes. So we use it a lot for that because it takes an hour for a smaller school to wander around the stacks and find all the books. Larger schools, which about 15,000 items, that's maybe 2 hours. Sometimes the librarians at those buildings, gang up and we can have 2 or 3 wands going at the same time to make it even quicker. The ability for her to find things in weird places is excellent. So if a book falls down behind the bookcases, it shows up that there's something there, and we can actually, get the custodian to move the cases out because, as you know, students like to put books everywhere but back on the shelf. We use it to find missing items in our classrooms. So at the end of the year, the librarians can take the wand and walk around to the different classrooms. As you saw in the video earlier, she's just holding the wand, waving. So as we walk through the classrooms, it comes up with a red signal saying there's a book there. So we know that it's one of ours on the shelf and we can look for it instead of having to lean and separate out through everything in the teacher's classroom. When we do, by the way, deaccession a book, we do score through the RFID tag so that if one of our old library books gets into a classroom, we're not picking that up. So we're only picking up the books that are currently in our collections. If the teacher's already boxed it up, we can take the wand, and we have discovered that if the boxes are small to medium size, we can actually scan the backs. We go around the 4 sides, over the top, and it'll pick up all the books in the backs and let us know if we need to open the backs to find and dig out one of our missing library books. So it's been very handy. We also use it to check in items on book carts or in processing. So while we're doing inventory, we don't worry about shelf order. We don't worry about making sure our books are all shelved. We just scan the bookshelves. I pull out the book drop, go around it, wind the books inside. We're not really physically touching any of the books. We have moved to checking the books from inventory to checking the books when the books are returned. Because that's when we want to open the book up, look inside, make sure the kids didn't use a catcher package as a bookmark, and before we put it back on the shelf. So that has switched how we do things with these wands. But the amount of time it saves, the amount of knees, our librarians are feeling much better lately. A lot less people out for injuries. It's a lot of physical effort to go through and hand scan every book, and this just saves us so much time. So I'm giving a couple usage examples. One of our favorite usage is when our librarians are out sick. We have a severe sub shortage in our area, so we never know who is going to be in that library. In this case, we had a librarian out for about 4 weeks, and when she came back in on her crutches, a lot of the kids were saying the books had been returned. She could have gone through and every book in our library to try to find them, but instead a couple of us came in to help her out. We just scanned her collection. We found all the items that had been returned to the shelf, still checked out. The system, because we are an integrated library system, we have LS2 for our catalog. It automatically checked in all the books for us on the shelf, so we didn't have to take the book, pull it out, and head to the circulation desk to check it in. If the book was out of place, this is only like half the screen. Earlier in the video, you saw it showed the other half of the screen, and that would tell us where the book was located in the shelves. So if we saw, for example, the Polar Express was in the chapter book area, we would know we need to find it, pull it, and move it back. But this kind of scanning is very fast, very easy. So instead of the librarian, crawling around in an elementary library on the floor trying to find all these books, we just went in. 60 minutes later, we wandered out, having scanned everything, checked it all in, and we left a librarian who knew she had accurate circulation records. So she really liked that. And we did find over 40 items checked in, or not checked in, I should say, by various substitutes. So it was really well worth our time. This is a bit more complex example. As we've had these wands a few years now, we are figuring out more things we can do with them beyond the basic inventory or exception scanning. Our district's in a big facilities modernization cycle. So this year we had 3 schools that were supposed to move to new locations to be remodeled. Our largest elementary school, or second largest, was actually going to be split between 2 buildings. So the physical split was going to be K3 and 3-6. They were separating up the 3rd grade, 2 sections in each building. We're not quite sure why, but the librarian was quite concerned about that. So she spent the last couple of months separating out on her shelves. One side was going to go to one building, the other side was going to the other building. This way she could keep circulating and know where her books were and not box them up until the last minute. So when we got the books to the one site, we were purchasing a new LS2 site. We were using the bonds to collect all the barcodes. LS2 is a nice transfer feature. We were going to upload the barcodes to it and collect them all and transfer them to that new site. Then we were going to take the wand to the other site, do an inventory. That way we would know anything was missing during our move. It's not uncommon because they store the books at a different location. They usually rent a warehouse somewhere over the summer and store the books there. So occasionally we have missed entire shelves of books, and we have to let them know so they can go dig out our boxes. So this is a quick way. Within an hour or 2, we know instantly, did we miss any books in that move? So we had this all planned out, and a week before she was ready to move it back, so they said they're going to push it back to next year. So she now spent the last 2 weeks re-interfiling all of her books so she can redo it in May of next year and do that. So we actually did not do this process, but we do plan to do it in June of next year. But we have found, like I said, as we go through and use this bond more and more, we're finding it very accurate. We are exploring using this for our textbooks. We have about 350,000 textbooks in our district, and we are going to be experimenting with doing that because we are saving money with the accuracy we're getting with the RFID system. It's also very popular in our school libraries for a teacher coming in, because our RFID check-in system with the spots, they can put a whole pile of 5 or 10 books on there and check them out at once. So we're not, scanning. We really reduce the amount of scanning we do in our system. So thank you for listening. I'm going to pass it back over.
Thank you, Melissa. You can see why her staff call them the magic wands. Once you have RFID in place, there's so many creative ways to use it. I'm going to mention a couple more that have come from libraries. One of those is to capture lists. So a library wanted to separate out a subset of a collection and give it a different collection code. So they were able to do that by pulling the items, gathering the barcodes up with CircTrack, and then uploading them into the ILS for a global change on collection code. Change 6,000 items, one operation, goes very quickly. I'm sure some of you produce weed lists, and you take the weed list to the shelf, find the items. That goes away, as do most all printed lists. What you do is change the status of that report, gather your weed report in your ILS, update the status to something other than in or on the shelf or available, something that signals that this item is in an exception status. Once you've done that, anytime you scan for exceptions, you'll find your weed candidates, and we would have staff put those on the bottom of the book truck and then pass them back to be handled by a selection librarian or purged from the system. So all of your weed lists, manual weed lists go away, all of your manual exceptions lists go away, and instead you're doing a scan as regularly as you would like. The more often you do it, the cleaner the catalog, the cleaner the shelves. I had a branch doing their entire collection, 110,000 items, every month. It's doable. They assigned each shelver or page a couple of ranges, and then they would say, sometime during your shift this month, go and scan your ranges. And in that way, scan the entire collection during every month. It was quick, maybe 5 to 6 hours of time over the month, and then they had the catalog cleaned up. Another application, if you have a library that has chronic claimed return issues, patrons are returning things, we're finding that they're still checked out. So one of those branches would scan the book trucks before they were shelved. It would find anything on the book truck that hadn't been checked in, and that avoids claimed return calls from patrons entirely. We could also trace when that cart had been checked in, and perhaps by what operator, what staff member, so we could do some remedial training as well. But most importantly, it kept the patron call from coming in at all. You can also use SurfTrack to check for your security being on. So the tag itself has a bit that is turned on and off for security. So you can check and see if perhaps you want to make sure everything out on the shelves is in on security status. You can do that with that SurfTrack, and you can see if it finds an item, here's an item that isn't on, it will return it over. So you can be sure that everything on the shelves has security bit on. And finally, you can do some looking in the collection for things that are grossly misshelved, non-collection, and you can correct that situation by returning them to their home base instead of having them sitting in the collection. Anything that's marked as missing in your catalog is missing for some reason. And so if you find a missing item, you want to correct that condition, make sure that now it's findable in the catalog. So we talked about a number of different ways. Alyssa talked about how her staff use that SurfTrack for different situations. So know that once you have RFID in place, you can use it for shelf management, ongoing, real-time inventory, exception scanning, traditional inventory to gather up barcodes on a process station in ILS, or this new dynamic inventory where it will update last seen date in the item record. So you're really doing inventory on the fly. All of these efforts, all of these operations save staff time and serve patrons efficiently. So it's really, I'm an advocate for RFID. If you're not there yet, and you need to think about how to convert your collection, I also do a lot of work with libraries on their conversion plans, how to plan for staffing, how to budget time. That is the end of our presentation slides. We'd love to take some questions if you have any. Any questions?
I hope this isn't a dumb question. Do you have to insert the tags book by book?
You do. Each item needs to have its little antenna chip inserted into it. Back of the item, or sometimes if it's a DVD or CD, you can put an overlay on top of the list. So that way you can actually have your lists in an open collection, open shelves. And so that protects them going through security gates. But yes, you do have to go through that process of converting. Some of us remember barcoding back in the day. It's similar to that, where you touch every item and insert the tag. Marissa was a great coach for her 40 plus libraries in terms of how they converted. We worked with a lot of libraries on how to accomplish that conversion.
So we did our 40 libraries. It took about 10 minutes for the training to teach people how to put in the tags and actually encode the tags. You put one in the back of each book, and then you pretty much got out of your mind while you did the next 6,000, because it's very repetitive. But the actual process of putting them in the books is very basic. Some of the librarians ganged up and went around to different libraries. So 5 librarians could do a library in a day. That's all they were doing. We had some that brought in their husbands or college-age students that would sit there and do it. We had one group that came in as volunteers and did it from a day of hearing from a of our banks in the area. But the actual process of RFID, like I said, it's more very easy to train, but it is very good. Most of my librarians said that about 4 hours at a time was all they could handle before they started going cross-eyed. But the system itself is very simple. And this is honestly, I did 2 retrospective conversions back in the 90s to upgrade from the handwritten cards to barcodes. This is where we're going. I think this is really going to be where all the libraries, school, public, academic will be in the future. It's just such a time saver. With our schools being one people shows, the amount of time we're saving using the system is pretty effective.
Thank you. That was an excellent question. Does anyone else have a question for Luke?
I wanted to add, if your library is planning a remodel of a branch that they're closing for a period of time, you're building a new library to open a branch, those are beautiful times to do tagging. So I have methods to talk to you about how to do that during those periods, or to tag when your library is open as well. Many libraries do that. Sometimes they use their friends of the library, volunteers for the library, hire temporary help to help tag. Of course, staff as well, but staff are busy doing other times, so if you need some supplementary labor, you can use some of those methods to bring in additional help with tagging. It goes very quickly. Once very simple.
Hi, are there any current or future plans to have the dynamic scanning for other ILS systems?
So I hope you heard that. For other ILS systems that do dynamic scanning, and as we're looking at that, it was because we're sister company with TLC, that was our first opportunity. We have that working with their 2 ILSs, but yes, we would like to understand that as an opportunity as a new future for other ILSs as well. But don't forget, traditional inventory is fine too. And you can do one collection. You don't have to do the whole library. You might want to do a deeper dive on DVDs or a special collection. Maybe that's the big collection that you do inventory. I'm not a big advocate for inventory because it wobbles and goes out of date. I'd much rather see it each time you're doing your exception scanning and taking it up to date.
Any other questions? I saw you jump under the banner to do that and pulled her in from the aisle.
Hi. So I work for consortia staff. We support our largest urban library who's looking at doing an inventory for their main branch, which was going to be a major undertaking. My question is, do you partner with anyone to do like boots on the ground work, or do you kind of depend on the libraries to bring these people in to do that?
We actually do provide a tagging service, but we can outsource the tagging operation. We bring in a team, bring in a project manager, and they take care of the tagging for you. So the answer to that is yes.
Cool.
Yeah. The other thing that is very cool, our AMH system, our sorting systems, can be equipped to write the tag. And so if there's a blank tag in the item already, it comes over the AMH and read the barcode on the outside of the item and write that barcode onto the tag. It takes a camera system to see the barcode on the outside, but then seeing it, recognizing it isn't written yet, you're going to write the tag. That's possible.
That's letting your patrons do the conversion for you.
Yeah, exactly. Do we have another question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, would we be able to use our pre-existing RFID tags if we're using the I think they're the D5, the ISO tags?
Standard tags.
Good.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, before you head out, we do have some chocolate for everybody.
Be sure to get your chocolate here on the way out, your little chocolate bars. Thanks, everybody. I'm glad you came by. Thank you.
Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of the show.